go in this demo, what are we going to check out?
Well, so I'm just going to sort of show a little bit of the experience of Arena Commander. We start in the hangar, and then the idea with Arena Commander is, I sort of like to do everything in fiction. I mean, there's these, I know we just did a freelancer commercial this past weekend, but I like to, instead of sort of doing stuff that could be constrained as like talking directly about the game, like sort of an in fiction. So we like to show off the ships as a commercial that was done 900 years in the future in our universe.
Okay.
And the same again with Arena Commander. The concept really is this is a simulation inside the universe that, like, as a pilot, so in our universe, you go between planets, and there's, obviously you can get attacked by pirates, so there's lots of danger out there. And if you invested like time and effort in building up your ship, you don't want to lose it. So Arena Commander is sort of a simulation that will allow people to get online in the universe and test out their flight skills without risking losing their ship.
Flex that combat muscle, sort of,
exactly,
play around a little bit, but not put it on the line. Yeah,
learn how to use your ship, and also longer term, we're going to sort of make it sort of a in fiction esports in the universe. So when the actual full persistent universe is out there, Arena Commander itself will have competitions, and all the players can join.
You've got leagues, and you've got teams forming up there.
And even in a bar in like one of the planets, you could go and they can be broadcasting the Arena Commander, final and stuff like that. So we're really going to try and do that. There's also a later version of it which will also just be racing. We have this fictional thing we call Murray Cup Racing inside the universe. That's been a lot of our fiction. And so, because not everybody wants to just fight. Some people want to fight, and so we really try to make it sort of in fiction. And so the idea is the hangar, which is what we sort of released last year, which would allow you to walk around, look at your ship. So I'm sort of in the hangar right now, looking around.
It's a quiet day at the hangar, just,
and so I'll put on, people always
out.
like put on a helmet, because we need to wear a helmet for flying. People like the helmet.
Safety first, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But interesting to note, the helmet does not come with a HUD.
Oh, no, it does once you get into the ship.
Oh,
so
okay.
You'll see.
Well, once it fires up and there's something to see. Yeah, I guess.
Well, yeah. So, but if I just go, that's my character right here. But I'll just walk over to. So this is the hangar. This is actually a deluxe hangar. I think we just set up for this demo. And there's 3 different ships you can fly in Arena Commander at the beginning. One is the Hornet, which is sort of the custom dogfighting ship, which is the one I'm walking up to right now. And then in the background over here, I just show that's the 300i, which is sort of more our sort of BMW sort of.
Looks a little more sleek.
A little sleeker. And then the base, the starter ship, which is the Aurora, which is kind of over here.
That tiny little thing over there?
Yeah. That's. But we'll get in the Hornet because it's sort of the one with the most firepower and the sexiest.
All right. Well, I mean, and scale is such a big part of Star Citizen and such a huge part of its appeal. You're starting off with the one-seater.
Yeah, and you move up, and everything's, it's essentially everything's run inside a first-person engine. I mean, we're inside CryEngine. We've done a lot of modification to it, but it's at the fidelity of, a next-gen first-person game, but you can get into vehicles and fly them, and you get into bigger vehicles, and you go from planet to planet. So there's the level of ambition's pretty crazy. So what happens is when you get into a ship that's sort of dogfight eligible, I can look around it, but I'll just I'll go here and we'll go into the sort of the single-player mode drone sim, and we'll launch and go into broken mood. Now, in the final game, there won't be a loading screen like this because there'll be streaming tech. So essentially, if you fly into something, you'll basically get in your ship and we'll fly out, and you'll sort of have a transition, and we'll sort of seamlessly stream in and the other areas.
The bay doors will open.
Yeah,
out
exactly.
you go.
Yeah, so we handle that with sort of cinematic transitions, but it's all sort of live. So you can sort of be in, like the equivalent could be you be inside your, say, like the Millennium Falcon would be an example. I mean, not that we have a Millennium, but a Millennium Falcon ship, you could be like walking around inside it as it's taking off. You can see stuff around you, and then you fly and you transition through the clouds, and then you sort of be in space. And so that's going to be cool. That's sort of tech that's in process. So for the Arena Commander, we're just sort of we're now loading into the space level. I've got a bit of a custom level here in Arena Commander because I sort of wanted to sort of show the fidelity of the ship before getting attacked by a bunch of Vandal. So this is the Hornet out in space, and so like one of the things, so like actually if I just sort of let me just zoom in here, we can sort of see the
nice.
Oops, today's not so close, but everything's done in what's called PBR, which is a rendering technique that makes everything sort of feel. Oh, hang on, let me lock my camera down. And let's go where light will shine on me. But
You're looking very stoic.
Yeah, I'm looking very stoic. But like, if I look around, you can see me with my helmet. So the fidelity that we're doing on this is sort of like, I mean, even the ship here is 300,000, 400,000 polys, and the character himself is close to 100,000. And then one of the things that is pretty interesting, and it's kind of a little bit, it's a learning curve for people who are starting to play it, is that we've decided, because we have such a big game, and you can fly ships from all sides, small ones all the way up to these really huge ships, that we've decided to do a very different flight model than most space games have ever done, including the ones I've made. Different than Wing Commander, different than Privateer. So instead of doing what's essentially a simplified atmospheric model, which is what most space games do, and that's much more like a plane. So you pull back on the stick. Like in Atmosphere, it's like you instantly get sort of direct one-on-one relation between your stick and movement because of you're cutting through the atmosphere. There's a force. Where in space you have no resistance. So what we've actually done is we 100% model everything correctly. So the ship itself and all the items on it are attached to it. They change the center of mass, and then where all the thrusters are, it's actually applying force in the physics engine at that point at the linear side, at the thrust that's been determined by the intelligent flight system. And so what happens is, as you fly around, it's got a slightly different control. It's got a little more sort of inertia. Like I guess if I go in let's see, if I just go to the front, I let go, it sort of moves a little bit because it's got a little bit of that kind of asteroids feel, because really all those thrusters are countering thrust and they don't deploy immediately. And so it takes a little bit of getting used to, but what it does allow is a huge amount of extra skill and other options. But you basically have to sort of anticipate your stopping distance, right? Because it's like in a car, if you come up to a stop sign at 50 miles an hour, you don't hit the brake right at the line, you start to do it before. And so you kind of have to do that with what we're doing.
And so you've got the thruster force, the weight of the ship, and all,
exactly.
all that
and the
calculating right there.
And the key with it is that means that, in the old way of doing games, what would normally happen would be, I'm going to turn off my safeties. What normally would happen is that you would basically say, okay, this ship rolls at this rate, pitches at this rate, yours at this rate. It can accelerate so fast and has a top speed. So to make a difference in a feel of a ship, you basically can just change those parameters, which just means bigger ships turn slower or accelerate slower. But they all kind of handle the same. Whereas in this system, because everything uses correct physics in the center of it, like if I'm going around, you can sort of see me sliding around on these things. Let's not hit that. I died!
I clipped it! Much to the delight of the fans who are watching.
No. Well, let me respawn here. So, but no, the thing that happens in that particular case is that if you just had a smaller compact ship and a bigger ship with exactly the same engines, they would handle differently. So it's much like cars. You can have a car that has the same horsepower engine, but depending on whether the engine's at the front or the back or how it's set up, it will actually control differently. So it was actually a big design decision because we just sort of felt like we had so many different ships, and we also wanted a lot of different things you can customize, like what your loadout is and what thrusters or engines you put on it. So we needed to have a system that would simulate that and it would feel sort of holistic. So that's kind of the big thing. It's still early stages because the IFCS system itself, we're still tweaking because essentially it's so complicated that you have to have basically a fly-by-wire computer to sort of take your input and essentially, if I, on the outside, change it to what the thrusters are doing to maneuver for the pilot's actions.
Sure.
So, there's a little bit of finessing that and also making it work well for the mouse and the joystick. But that's the whole point of doing the early test in the Arena Commander and getting out there to the backers is to really get everyone's feedback, and then also a little bit to sort of educate people on a different way of doing it, because we're doing it very different. So I'm going to bring in some enemy right now so they can attack me. But it does definitely enable you to do different kinds of things. So if I pull out here, I can decouple, and now I'm actually going backwards, like in physics, and I can go back into the control method and it'll take the thing. So let me just find the enemies.
It seems like the upshot of the whole sort of system is to make make that inertia so important and make that ship identity and that ship build
100%. So it's a lot more. I like to say that this is going to be a lot more. It'll feel a little more like asteroids than it will like even a Wing Commander in the past. But I think we can do some stuff that's that really makes that kind of fun. So let me,
All right, well, I'm going to take a question or two over Twitter.
Yeah,
we had one earlier from Kenneth Ellis wondering, you mentioned before that the Arena Commander gives you that great opportunity to get your ship blown up, respawn, all that. He's a little worried about ship insurance, and how's that going to work, you know, once he actually takes it out, maybe encounters some pirates in actual space and runs afoul of them. Is that something you guys have sort of mapped out at this point, or is that?
Well, no. Basically, oops, I'm gonna kill
something
myself.
that's easy to talk about during dogfighting in space, Chris?
But no. So essentially, all ships come with insurance. We had this thing for the early backers that we had lifetime insurance, which essentially meant that you'd never have to re-up your insurance. But every basic ship in the game comes with a certain amount of insurance, like 2 months or 3 months of insurance, and then in the game credits, when your insurance policy's up, you just got to spend a bit more credit. So essentially, as long as you're running around doing missions, making money in the game, you'll make money.
You'll come out
to keep
you'll be able to afford the deductible and get out on top.
It's 100% like the real world, right? And we have other things. I mean, as
they're coming for you, Chris.
Yeah, they definitely are, especially since I didn't tell them to come just yet.
Surprise! So to clarify, are these actual pilots coming after you, or is this AI?
No, this is AI.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I guess you did summon them with the press of a key. So.
Yeah. No, I brought him in. No, because the multiplayer mode is, like I think I said, getting rolled out this week. So we have it multiplayer. We've been playing it internally multiplayer, but
yeah, I was wondering if you had some guys back at the studio taking some shots at you.
There you go. Him.
So in terms of that maneuverability, what kind of pilot sensation do you want to cultivate with that? I mean, obviously you want the pilot to feel in control of their vehicle, but you also want them to feel like
I'll let myself get shot, and people
like they are out in space, and they do have these forces to contend with, and their engineering that creates this ship and creates this thrust and this inertia is a certain way. How do you sort of find the sweet spot between trying to make it realistic and also trying to make it something that the pilot's going to enjoy and be able to pick up?
So that's kind of what we're dealing with tonight. That's kind of one of the reasons why we released the V0.8 is we kind of wanted to get it out to a wider feedback group to try and hit that sweet spot, because I'm really keen to have a system that is that sort of flexible and gives that many characteristics, because when I have so many ships. But obviously part of the issue is, it's got to be easy at the beginning, right? You sit down, you start to play, it's going to be kind of fun. So kind of like my goal, just showing off the damage modeling right now. Part of my goal is to sort of make it at the very beginning sort of fun and easy to play, almost like sort of a StarCraft where you can just use a mouse, right? But then if you get good at it, all the shortcuts and all the extra things you're going to do, because that's sort of the idea. Having a systems-based approach allows a lot more dials to tweak and turn, and
allows a lot more articulation along that skill
and our ship itself, the actual ship itself, is actually fairly dumb. What it has is about 50 or 60 items plugged into it. So the thrusters are all items, the weapons are all items, the radar is an item, the weapons control is an item, the power plant's an item. So the shield is an item.
Players are going to be able to pick and choose.
And they can choose and customize, and then also they're all connected. So like the power plant provides power, and then a lot of the different systems require power. If the power plant goes down and gets retrograded, then there'll be less power of the systems, and they won't work as well, or just won't work. So like the lights on the ship will turn off if you lose your power and stuff like that. So it's all these things happen. If you lose a wing, for instance, or you lose some thrusters, that will change how your ship will fly, because the moment inertia changes and the power. So because we've gone to a lot of effort to build these systems in, and we're allowing players to also change the power distribution between the different items, and so a lot of that will come online in the next month. The system's actually in there, and in debug modes we can do it all, but we still like tweaking the HUD to get all that to work. And so it's kind of one of these things where it's a pretty complicated system. We want to get out there, we want to get feedback, and we want to see where people have trouble, and then, okay, well, let's simplify this and make a sort of simple, easy thing to do up front. And then the experts, where they really get into it and they really want to do some kind of fun, tricky maneuvers, they essentially, there you go, they can. And so that's kind of the nice thing about the crowdfunding setup, is that you basically have this huge focus group. I mean, you've got this large group of people that are really passionate about the game.
Yeah.
They got a lot of opinions, And
yeah, you're not just getting data back from them from what you guys have built into the game. They're sounding off.
No, they're saying, and you know, so it's like if I was doing this the traditional method, you would hire a focus group and there'd be 20 or 30 people.
Yeah.
But that's a small sample. You know, we've got hundreds of thousands of people playing it that are actually right there giving us feedback of like, I like this or I don't like that. It's interesting to see people discover things. So like on the flight model at the beginning, there was a fair number of people that were like, oh, you know, I don't like this. This doesn't feel like what I'm used to. And then over time, there was people going, oh, you know, the physics, the simulation's so good that the flight model appears bad. And then like, if you do this and this and this, and like they were discovering the different modes and like, oh my God, I can do these extra maneuvers and do all this sort of stuff. So it's all that kind of stuff that's really great to get early on, because that'll just allow us to hone it over the next year and a half before the full game's out, and hopefully by then we'll have something that'll be really fun. I mean, it's already fun to fly around and play, and we're super early. I mean, this early in the process, I would never have a game this polished. So, and making it a public release sort of forces you to have it fairly polished.
To bring it up to that level.
Yeah. So it's a great process, and I'm sort of really enjoying it, even though I'm getting my back half of my ship completely shot off at the moment.
Well, clearly, you are clearly enjoying it, and clearly, you know, the scope of this game is something that I think has really drawn people to it. But thank you for coming on and sort of drilling down into this, you know, very specific but also very integral part of the Star Citizen experience.
No, it's cool, and I actually really, you know, anyone out there that's a backer, I mean, it's, you know, please play it, give us your feedback. If you want to check it out, you know, you should come check it out as well. It's a really great process. I'm really enjoying making a game this way, where you're sort of involving a much larger group of